Good morning, everybody. Today I'm making this video mainly to showcase how to use the NimEclipse system that we have, the interoperative neuromonitoring system that we have from Medtronic. So a lot of students have had trouble with setting up protocols in that. So I'll be showcasing how to make a protocol as well as save it in your name. And special thanks to Bharat for getting this demo software, which helps me show the exact steps without involving the machine itself. So right now I'll be sharing my screen. So when you start up the software in the Medtronic machine, it will, okay, before that, there are a few steps to that. So what happens is that once you switch on the computer basically acts as an interface between the actual powerhouse, meaning that the processor which gives the stimuli and takes the recording, that's the box which is below the laptop. Okay. And this software is an interface for you to interact with that device. Now, the thing is that that device itself requires a lot of other softwares which are running in the background for it to work. Now, if you switch on this software, the software for interfacing, before switching on the processor, then what will happen is that the drivers which are required to run that processor will not be linked, will not be started up. So after you have, if you do not switch on the processor before you switch this on, you will not be able to use it. It will basically always keep showing stimulator not connected at the bottom as an error. So always make sure before starting a case, your processor is switched on. The box with all the cables which are connected to it, that box should be switched on. There's a small green light on the left corner in the front. You'll be able to see that green light on, meaning that the processor is on. Okay. Now, once you have switched that on, then you switch on the laptop. And after that, you will switch on, you will open this specific, let me show this. So this specific icon, you'll double click on this and this type of box will open up. Okay, in this you can see there is a place to enter the name of the operator. You can enter your name, hardly matters. This doesn't have any bearing on what you do. After this, there are two specific options here, NS and SD. NS means neurostimulator and SD means surgeon directed. The surgeon directed is a ultra simplified protocol, meaning that there are presets which you can directly go to if you are using the surgeon directed. However, I would suggest you always go for the NS one. In this nerve stimulator option, you will be able to set up your own protocol based on your requirements. Okay, so I'm switching this on. Once it switches on, this type of a screen will come. In this, there are not too many, there are 0 folders with people's preset protocols. So since those are not there, this top bar is empty. But once you start setting up protocols, different people will have different folders of protocols for themselves. So this area will be populated with multiple such names. Okay. Now let's start the setting up of a new protocol. When you're setting up a new protocol, you press this button, new protocol. Okay. So when you switch it on, this message will come. This basically means that the program is running, but it is not going to do any sort of stimulation or recording. So you just press OK and continue. So at the bottom, this type of message will keep coming throughout the time. Okay. So now coming to the parts of this software, let's just start with making the protocol. And while we are making the protocol, I'll be discussing what all are the parts of this software. Okay. So initially, when you want to set up, suppose we are going to set up 4 monitoring systems. One is an EEG, one is an MEP, one is a lower limb SSCP and upper limb SSCP. Okay. So let's start with the EEG. So you go to this right-hand upper corner place called modality type. You select the drop-down box. In that, you select the EEG. Okay. Once you have selected the modality, this preset modality called EEG, you are going to add. Okay. Once you add, this box will come. Okay, this is the box where you are going to set up the names of the electrodes that you are going to put, and you are going to set up the channels via which the recording is going to happen or stimulation is going to happen. Okay, so in the EEG, there is no stimulation. So let's just set up the recording electrodes. Suppose we are setting up a simple system of bifrontal recordings, 2 channels. Okay, so I'll be just naming them. Whatever you name them, it hardly matters. Okay, these are this I'm typing is just names. Okay, names of the electrodes that you are putting in. So F1, F2, F3, and F4. Okay. So now, as convention, your left ones are named as odd numbers and right ones are named as even numbers. So let's just set up the 2 channels that we are going to do. So here at the bottom, you can see DAQ-A channels, DAQ-B channels. Okay, so these are the places where you will be setting the channels. So how it happens is that if your number of channels required for all of your monitoring spills over, then it will go on to this channel. Otherwise, it will not. Okay. So let's just start off. So first, in this, you can see there are 2 parts, active and reference. Active is basically the recording electrode. Reference is the electrode whose signals are subtracted from the active electrode to give you the final output. Okay. Now, in EEG, it hardly matters which one is active and which one is reference, because at maximum, what will happen is that if you do if you make it opposite, the polarity will switch. And anyway, it's a random waveform, so the polarity switching hardly matters to you. So it matters in other stuff like other modalities, but in EEG, it doesn't matter. So we are just going to set up F1, F3, and F2, F4. Okay. So what you will do is you will click on this. And after that, you will click on F1 as active and F3 as reference. You can see that it has come. Similarly, we are going to do F2 and F4. So now we have got 2 channels. Okay, a channel is a pair of electrodes which is used for recording impulses. Okay. Now, once you have set it up, it is going to ask you to determine the side of it. Okay, because you have named it, you have to determine the side of it. By convention, we are selecting the left side as the F1, F3 and the right side as F2, F4. Now, once you have set this, based on this, you will be putting the electrodes on the patient. Okay, whichever 2 electrodes you put in the left side of the frontal part of the patient's head, you are going to be putting the F1, like F1, maybe the medial one, suppose. The F1 is the medial one. So the F1 you'll be putting in the number 1 slot of the recording box, and F3 in the third port in the recording box. Okay. So once you have done this, since there are no stimulation, so we don't need to bother with the stimulation box. We only need to bother with the recording box. So we have set the channels. We will apply. Once you have applied, the EEG is ready. Okay. Now, once this EEG is ready, you also have to understand that there are multiple different things that you can do with the data. Okay. In that, you can see there are a few options here: trace, stack, spectral, numeric, and markers. Of these, you are mostly concerned with trace, spectral, and numeric. Stack is basically stacking of multiple waveforms. That's all. Okay. So trace is already selected. For the spectral, you select the EEG. So it will create one more box here. I'll show what to do with this. And then numeric, again, you select this. Okay. Now let's set up the window for seeing the EEG. So we'll drag the EEG trace over here. Now you can see that it has now 2 channels are showing. It will run as a waveform like this. For the F1, F3 and F2, F4 will run like this. Okay. Now we also want to add the spectra. Okay. So now you are getting the, I just dragged it over. That's all I did. Now this middle portion where it tries to select out, pre-select out the area of the screen where you'll be putting it, that is a bit janky. Okay. That won't work very well. You just have to keep playing around. Like I'm dragging this. So here, see, it is going like this. I want to put it at the left side or the right side, but it is doing some weird thing. So I'll just keep moving it around. See, now it has come. Now I'm going to put it there. Okay. So here you are getting the EEG spectra, that is your DSA, color DSA or CSA. Here you will be getting the numerics that you want, and here you will be getting the waveform. Okay, so now once your window is set up, you can name the window in the tab above. Okay, so here we'll be renaming it as EEG. Okay, now you have got the EEG window set up. Now let's create another window for suppose MEP. Okay, so I'm going to make a new window. Tab 2 has come. The tab 1 is still EEG. Tab 2 I'll be putting as MEP. Now let's set up the modality for MEP. Again, go to modality settings at the right upper corner. Press on plus. Select from the drop down menu MEP. Okay. So once you have selected it, it will automatically pre-select some important things that are required for setting it up. There are two types of stimuli, electrical and external. Oh, earlier it used to be magnetic. Okay, electrical. So you will select the electrical one. Stimulation group is MEP. There are two types of stimulation. One is biphasic and one is left-right separately. You will be putting the left-right separately and add. Once you add this modality, again, the electrode box will open up. Okay, so here though we have two types of boxes. One is the stimulation box and one is the recording box. Both of them will be required. So let's set up two muscles in the upper limb and two muscles in the lower limb. Okay, now for each muscles, so for upper limb, there are, if you are putting two muscles, you'll be putting up two muscles in each of the arms. Right, so you'll be having left and right upper limb, left and right lower limb, and each of those channels will have two electrodes, positive and negative. Okay, so you have to make multiple electrode channels for MEP. Now just bear with me while I type this out. So first let's start with upper limb, maybe your brachioradialis and your APB. The abductor pulsus brevis. Okay, so right APB plus right APB minus. Okay, right brachioradialis plus right brachioradialis minus. Now let's set up the left side. Okay, left APB plus left APB minus left brachioradialis plus and left brachioradialis minus. Okay. Now let's go on to the lower limbs. In the lower limb, suppose we are going to put EHL, extensor hallucis longus, and maybe the tibialis anterior. Okay. So for that, what we'll be doing is right TA plus, right TA minus, and right EHL plus, right EHL minus, right tibialis anterior, sorry, this will be left. Left TA plus, left TA minus, left EHL plus, and left EHL minus. Just give me 1 second. Okay, continuing. So, left EHL minus. Okay, now I'll be selecting out the electrode specifically, the electrode channels that I require. So here though, it is useful to, again, like your MEP waveform, whether it is this polarity or that polarity, that hardly matters. Okay, so you can put it either way. Okay, like you can put the negative in the active or the reference, your positive in the active or the reference. Just make sure that whatever format you are following, you follow for all of the channels the same format. Okay, so now we are going for suppose we'll just put the negative one in the active and the positive one in the reference. Okay, so here I'll be selecting negative, positive, 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 and negative, positive. Okay. So you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 channels of recording are ready. Now we have to select the which side these belong to. Okay. Now obviously we are putting the right ones on the right side and left ones on the left side. So we are just going to select it like that. Right, right, left, left, right, right, and left, left. Okay. Now this is done. Now once you select these out, you'll see that on the left hand side here, the type of channel has come. Okay. So the above ones were EEG, below ones are EMG. Understand this, that the same channels can also be used for monitoring free run EMG if you are not using the MEP, because MEP you will be doing in discrete bursts. Rest of the time you can use these channels for running the EMG also. Okay, free run EMG also for monitoring that. Okay, I'll show you how to do that later on. Now let's go on to the stimulating boxes. In the stimulating box, you can see that the left fourth part of the stimulating box is already highlighted. There's a reason for that, because your MEP requires a high voltage output. Because of that, there is only one port in the stimulating box which delivers a high voltage output, and that will usually be marked with a lightning symbol. Okay, and that is the left 4. So here we'll be just writing out whatever the channel names you want. So mostly we put it at C3 dash and C4 dash. So we'll be putting it as C3 dash and C4 dash. Okay, so once you have named this is just for naming. Okay, now only thing you need to make sure is that the left stimulator that you put for the MEP, left stimulator that you put for the MEP, that you put in the 4th left port, and the right stimulator you put in the 4th right port. Okay, so there are two ports. There will be 2 ports like this. You have to put it appropriately. Once you have done this, you can see here the stimulus map is showing. In this, you will see the same MEP left and right are all from your L4. Okay, so this basically confirms that you have put in the left for both of them. Now apply. Once you have done that, your MEP is ready. Now let's drag the MEP trace to make a window for the MEP. You can see now that the window for the MEP is set up. Here the MEP will come. Once you do it, the MEP will come as a jagged wave on, and there will be 4 such channels for both the sides. The upper 2 are the upper limb, lower 2 are the lower limbs. Okay. So now let's rename this as MEP. Okay, done. Now let's create a new window. Right click, new window. Now let's do the SSCP upper. Again, the same thing. We are going to go to modality settings plus. Then we'll be selecting the modality type. You can see there is 2 separate SSCP upper and lower. Let's select out the upper one. Okay, and add. Once you select it out, again you have to set up the recording electrodes for the SSCP. Now, once for SSCP upper limb. Okay, what is the part of the cortex that gives you the upper limb SSCP? It is the lateral part of the hemisphere, right? The motor cortex on the lateral part of the hemisphere. So you'll be, so in that portion you'll be using the C3 C4 C1 C2 C3 C4. Okay, C1 C2 C3 C4. Yeah, C1 and C3 for the left side, C4 C2 and 4 for the right side. Okay, so let's just name them appropriately. C1, C2, C3 and C4. Okay, now once you have named those channels, let's make the name those electrodes. Let's name the let's put the channels on for SSCP. So we'll be using the active one. Again, it hardly matters. Okay, just make sure that you have the same format. Okay, so let's put up C1 and C3 and C2 and C4. Now there is an interesting thing. There is a little deviation in how you'll be selecting the sides for SSCP. Okay. Now for MEP, it hardly mattered. For EEG, it doesn't matter because there is no stimulation. For MEP also, it hardly matters because the entire motor cortex is getting stimulated at one point of time. Okay, and the signals are going down the corticospinal pathways and they are stimulating both the sides together. Okay, the localization of the activity is from the recording of the muscles. Okay, so and the stimulation is happening both the sides simultaneously. Okay, it's basically like a big shock wave which is going across the brain and stimulating all the corticospinal tracts simultaneously. Okay. Now for SSCP though, it is a bit different because you are stimulating, if you are stimulating the median nerve on the left side, you will be catching it on the right cortical hemisphere. Okay, so you have to be careful about that. So here, if you are capturing the C1, C3 from the left side, you have to put the stimulus as the right side. Okay, this is very important. Okay, see, you can see there's a difference in the way it is named, left stim and right stim. Okay, so which side stimulus you are giving for this pair of electrodes? That is the important part. Okay, and for the C2, C4, which are the right electrodes, you are doing the left stim. Okay, so you can see two separate names have come here. EP, EP means evoked potential, specifically for SSCP. Okay, now let's set up the stimulating box. Now for the stimulating box of SSCP, you can set any of the 1, 2, 3. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's just put on the top portion, and here though, your left and right will be separate. For MEP, everything was happening together as one shock wave. For SSCP, it is going to be left and right separately. So we'll just put it as left one is left median plus and left median minus. Then this is on the right side, right median plus and right median minus. Okay. Now you can see that here the output has been selected as L1 and R1. Earlier it was L4 for both for MEP. For SSCP, L1 and R1. Okay. So this plays out with what we were doing. Basically your stimulation from two separate ports. Okay. Once this is done, we will apply. Now the SSCP upper trace box is here. I'll drag it over, create a window for SSCP upper. You can see C2, C4 is there for the left side, C1, C3 is there for the right side. Okay. So let's rename this as SSCP upper limb. Okay. Now let's set up the lower limb SSCP. Again, go to, so let's set up, make another window, new window. Now let's go to modality, select SSCP lower. SCP lower, you can see it is set up. Now add. Once you add it, again, you have to put up the electrodes for it. Now for electrodes of the lower limb capture. Okay, lower limb capture is happening from the medial cortex. You do not have separate electrodes for medial cortex because the cortex is like this and your electrodes will be at the top. Okay, so the same set of electrodes will be used for capturing the left stimulus as well as the right stimulus. Okay, so where do we put it? Let's put it as, so usually it is put it as a pair of electrodes at CZ and FPZ. CZ is the recording electrode and FPZ is the reference. CZ, FPZ or CZ, FZ. Either of them works. Okay, so let's do it as CZ and FPZ. Okay, so we have set up a pair of electrodes. Now the same electrode pair will be repeating for both the side stimulus. That's important. Okay, so CZ, FPZ, CZ, FPZ. Okay, so you're seeing two electrodes have been set up and we have to set up the stimuli. It hardly matters because the same pair of electrodes is setting up. So any one of them will select as the right, any one of them will select as the left. Okay. And in the stimulating box, now you can see the second row has been highlighted. We'll just write left posterior tibial plus left posterior tibial minus and right posterior tibial plus and right posterior tibial minus. Okay. Now that you have set it up, confirm from the stimulus map L2 and R2. Right? L2 and R2. Okay. Once this is done, apply. You can see SSCP lower trace has come here. We are going to drag it over here. CZ, FPZ, CZ, FPZ. Okay. You can also choose to make SSCP as a dual window, meaning that you are having upper limb on one side and lower limb on the other side, like this. Okay, you can choose to do that. Okay, so you can see SSCP lower trace, SSCP upper trace, or you can choose to make it into a separate window. Let's just go for SSCP as a single trace. Okay, as a single window. That way it's easier to monitor, right? So we'll rename this as SSCP. Okay, now it is done. We don't need this window, so remove. Okay, so now we have ended up with 3 separate windows for monitoring EEG, for monitoring MEP, and for monitoring SSCP. Okay, now that this thing is done, now we will start. We'll save this protocol. Okay, now once you have done this, you can either choose to save by pressing Control S. Wait, Control S doesn't work. Okay, save as. Click on the left upper corner, this icon, and save as. Okay, so when you save this as save as, you'll see that there are 2 options which will come: Medtronic and user. Okay, so in the Medtronic one, the preset protocols are there. In the user ones, your user-defined protocols are there. So in the user, you can there are already some preset folders. You can make your own folder. Okay, so you can make a new folder. Let's just name it Dhritiman for now. Okay, so inside this folder, I have double-clicked on that. So inside that folder, I'll be putting this as a protocol. Okay, suppose EEG, SSCP, SSCP, UL, LL, and MEP. Okay, so these 4 modalities I'm using, it will always be saved as a AXJS file. Okay, and save. Once this is done, you close this. It will ask save protocol changes. Yes. It will ask you to save again. Save it again. Okay, replace it. It's fine. Okay. Once you have made this, okay, it is not coming as a bar here. It should ideally come. But let's just, okay, in this, you won't be able to run the protocol. No? It won't allow you to run. Yeah, that's one problem. So running the protocol and all, you can see in the machine itself. So you can do it there. For now, I think it is clear how to set up the protocol. I think it will be beneficial for the residents as an initial introduction into setting up the machine for your intraoperative neuromonitoring. Okay, thank you and have a good day.